Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something that affects quite a few women. The link between irregular periods, specifically something called oligomenorrhea, and, well, vaginal health.
That's right.
We've looked into some sources that explain how having less frequent cycles might impact things like comfort, that delicate balance down there.
And importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Exactly. So our mission here is to kind of sift through the information, pull out the key stuff, and help you understand this connection so you feel more informed, maybe more empowered.
Yeah, it's about connecting the dots, understanding that your cycle's rhythm impacts more than just, the period itself. These hormones are busy.
Okay, so let's start with that oligomenorrhea. Sounds a bit technical.
It does, but it basically just means infrequent periods.
Our sources define it as when your cycles are consistently longer than 35 days apart, but it's not like they've stopped completely so, less than 6 months between them.
Right. And look, everyone has an off month now and then, maybe because of stress or travel. That's pretty normal.
But when it becomes a regular pattern, these longer gaps, that's when it might signal something else going on. Maybe hormonal imbalances, lifestyle stuff, or even an underlying health condition.
And the interesting part is the hormonal shifts causing these infrequent periods, they don't just, stay contained in the uterus and ovary.
Ah, okay.
These same hormones are really key for keeping the vaginal environment healthy, too. It's like a ripple effect.
So it's not just about the timing of your period. Oligomenorrhea can actually influence things like vaginal comfort, the pH balance we hear about.
And that whole community of microbes living there, the microbiome.
Yeah. So because things are maybe fluctuating more or less predictable, you might be more vulnerable to issues like dryness, irritation, maybe even infections.
Definitely. It really highlights how interconnected our body systems are. If one part, like the hormonal cycle regulation, is a bit out of sync, it can absolutely create waves in other hormone-sensitive areas, like the vagina.
Okay, let's get into the how. How exactly do these less frequent periods, this oligomenorrhea, influence vaginal health?
Well, think about the normal menstrual cycle. It's driven by this complex rise and fall of hormones, especially estrogen.
Right.
And these hormones do more than just manage menstruation. They help maintain vaginal moisture, keep the tissue strong and healthy, and critically support that balance of microorganisms.
The good bacteria, like lactobacillus.
Exactly. Normally, lactobacillus species are dominant. They produce lactic acid, which makes the environment acidic. That's a natural protective shield.
Okay.
But with your regular cycles, that hormonal rhythm gets disrupted. The levels might be low for longer or fluctuate unpredictably.
And that messes with the conditions that help those good lactobacillus bacteria thrive.
Precisely. Think about it. Estrogen helps ensure there's enough glycogen that's like food for lactobacillus in the vaginal cells.
Gotcha. Food for the good guys.
Right. So if estrogen levels are lower for extended periods, there's less glycogen available. Less food means the lactobacillus can't produce as much lactic acid.
And less lactic acid means the pH goes up, it becomes less acidic.
Bingo. And that less acidic environment is, unfortunately, more welcoming to potentially harmful microbes.
Ah, so that's where things like BV, bacterial vaginosis, or yeast infections might get a foothold, because the natural defense is weakened.
That's a major part of it, yes. It's like the good bacteria are being slightly starved, making it harder for them to maintain control.
And what about dryness? You mentioned tissue health.
Yeah, that's another key role for estrogen. It helps keep the vaginal lining thick, elastic, and lubricated.
So with oligomenorrhea, if you have prolonged periods of lower estrogen,
The vaginal lining can become thinner, drier, and less elastic.
which sounds pretty uncomfortable, like leading to itching, irritation, maybe pain during sex.
All of the above. And those thinner, drier tissues are also more fragile, more prone to tiny tears or abrasions.
Which I guess could also increase the risk of infection.
Absolutely. It's all interconnected.
Wow. Okay. Anything else? What about inflammation?
Good question. A stable hormonal environment and a balanced microbiome actually help regulate the local immune response in the vagina.
So when things are off-kilter with irregular cycles,
You can sometimes see a state of chronic low-grade inflammation setting in.
okay, like a constant low level of irritation almost, and that makes it harder for the body to fight things off properly.
That's the idea. The local defenses might be slightly impaired, making it tougher to deal with any unwanted bacteria or yeast that show up. Infections might stick around longer or keep coming back.
So we see how oligomenorrhea can affect things. Why is actively maintaining good vaginal health so important then, especially if you're dealing with these irregular cycles?
Well, like we've been saying, it really impacts your overall well-being. A healthy vaginal environment is literally your first line of defense against common infections. BV, yeast, even some UTIs can be linked.
Right, avoiding infections is huge, but also just feeling comfortable day to day, without itching or dryness or irritation that makes such a difference to your confidence and just, well, feeling good.
Definitely. And it's also about resilience. Healthy, well-lubricated vaginal tissues are better able to cope with the hormonal ups and downs that might come with oligomenorrhea. They're less likely to become irritated or vulnerable.
And supporting that local immunity we talked about, keeping inflammation down and the microbiome balanced helps your body protect itself naturally.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what can women actually do? What are some practical, holistic strategies for managing both the irregular cycles and supporting vaginal health at the same time?
Our sources point to a few key areas. And it starts, maybe unsurprisingly, with nutrition and hydration.
Yeah, that comes up a lot. Eating a balanced, nutrient-rich diet helps support hormone regulation and your immune system overall.
And staying properly hydrated is really important for all your mucous membranes, including the vaginal lining, which can help combat dryness. Think healthy fats, lean protein, lots of fruits and veggies.
Makes sense. What else?
Moderate exercise, and crucially, stress management.
Stress, the big one.
Right. Regular, moderate activity boosts circulation, which is good for hormonal balance. And finding ways to manage stress, whether it's yoga, meditation, hobbies, whatever works for you, can really help stabilize those hormonal systems affecting both your cycle and your vaginal health.
Good hygiene practices are obviously important too. The sources specifically warn against douching, right? Because that can just wreck the natural balance.
Definitely avoid douching. Gentle, fragrance-free cleansers for the external area are best. And things like breathable cotton underwear can help manage moisture. Simple stuff, but effective.
And being proactive if something feels off.
Yes. Don't ignore symptoms like unusual discharge, odor, itching. Talk to your doctor. Getting infections treated early stops them from becoming bigger problems and potentially worsening any existing imbalance.
Okay. Now, some sources specifically mention probiotics, right, as a way to actively support that microbial balance.
That's right. Targeted vaginal probiotics are suggested as a way to help reinforce the good guys.
Like bringing in reinforcements for the lactobacillus.
Exactly. Especially those strains known to thrive in the vaginal environment. They can help replenish beneficial bacteria that might be struggling due to those hormonal fluctuations we discussed.
And that helps maintain the acidic pH, that protective barrier.
Correct. Plus, certain probiotic strains can also help reduce inflammation and irritation directly.
Which would help with comfort, especially if dryness or sensitivity is an issue.
Precisely. And by supporting a balanced microbiome, probiotics can enhance that local immune function, making the vagina better equipped to resist infections or bounce back quicker if things get out of balance.
So for women dealing with the unpredictability of oligomenorrhea, probiotics could be a kind of supportive, non-hormonal tool.
That seems to be the thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
A way to help stabilize the vaginal environment from the inside out.
Okay, so this brings us to a specific product mentioned in the materials we looked at, Balance Complex. It's positioned as one of these targeted vaginal probiotic supplements.
Yeah, it's described as being formulated specifically to help restore microbial balance, reduce inflammation, and support those immune defenses in the vaginal area.
Apparently, it's been around for a while, over 10 years, is that right? And has sold quite a bit. It mentions having a high CFU count, 100 CFUG billion probiotics.
Right. CFU stands for colony-forming units, basically a measure of viable bacteria. And it also includes cranberry and D-meadows.
Ah, those are often linked with urinary tract health, right? Preventing UTIs.
They are. So it seems like it's aiming for a broader approach to intimate wellness, not just vaginal balance, but urinary support too.
It also mentions a maximum strength 17-in-1 strain blend targeting things like odor, itching, discharge, and standard quality stuff like non-GMO made in certified facilities.
Looking at the ingredients listed, you see several lactobacillus species. Acidophilus for pH balance, rhamnosus for immune support and inflammation.
Brute rotary for stability and tissue health, plantarum for antioxidant effects and resilience. Seems like they chose strains relevant to the issues we've been discussing. And Bacillus coagulans, too, for longer-term stability.
Then you've got that cranberry and D-meadows blend for the urinary tract support. Plus, other botanicals and ingredients.
Like oregano leaf extract and anseed, those sound like they might have antimicrobial
They
properties.
often do, yes.
Yeah.
And caprylic acid, which is sometimes used for yeast overgrowth. There are also enzymes mentioned, protease and cellulase.
What were those?
They can sometimes help break down biofilms, which are like protective shields that communities of microbes can form.
Interesting. Okay, what else? Aloe vera, that's usually soothing.
Right, for soothing and healing. And arabinogalactin for immune support. Black walnut hulls and wormwood, which have traditional uses against fungi and bacteria. And even reishi mushroom.
Reishi, like the medicinal mushroom?
Yeah, known for its anti-inflammatory and immune-modulating effects. So it's quite a complex blend, aiming at different aspects: microbial balance, inflammation, immunity, tissue health, and urinary health.
So, thinking specifically about women with oligomenorrhea, how would something like Balance Complex potentially help?
Well, the primary goal seems to be restoring that microbial balance, making the environment less friendly to pathogens that might take advantage of hormonal fluctuations.
And reducing inflammation and irritation for better comfort.
That seems to be another key aim, based on the ingredients like aloe and reishi and certain probiotics.
And maybe preventing recurrent infections like yeast or BV by keeping the environment more stable.
That's often a major goal of using vaginal probiotics, yes. Supporting overall resilience.
So, helping the tissues and the local immune system be better prepared to handle those unpredictable cycle changes.
Exactly. Promoting resilience seems key.
Now, it's really important to stress, and our sources do too, that this kind of supplement is just one piece of the puzzle, right? Especially with oligomenorrhea.
Absolutely. It's not a substitute for figuring out why the cycles are irregular in the first place. Consulting with a doctor is crucial.
Yeah, understanding the underlying cause is key. Maybe hormonal therapy is needed, or maybe it's about addressing lifestyle factors, nutrition, stress.
Exactly. Balance Complex, or any probiotic, should be seen as a supportive tool within a broader, holistic approach that includes professional medical guidance.
So combining those lifestyle strategies we talked about, diet, stress management, with potentially targeted support like a probiotic, that creates a stronger foundation.
That's the idea. A multi-pronged approach to support vaginal health, even when dealing with the challenges of irregular cycles.
Okay, so wrapping up this part of the discussion on oligomenorrhea and vaginal health, the takeaway seems to be that yes, infrequent periods can impact your vaginal well-being, mainly through those hormonal shifts affecting the microbiome, tissues, and immunity.
But you're not powerless. Understanding the connection is the first step.
Right. And then taking proactive steps, paying attention to diet, managing stress, good hygiene, getting medical advice when needed, and maybe considering supportive probiotics can all make a real difference.
It's about taking a comprehensive view of your reproductive wellness to build resilience and hopefully gain some peace of mind.
Now, shifting gears slightly, we touched on how vaginal health can sometimes feel, well, a bit mysterious or complicated. Things might feel off, but pinpointing why isn't always easy.
That's very true. So many factors can influence it. Hormones, diet, stress, hygiene products, sexual activity. It could be a puzzle.
So one of the resources mentioned in our sources was vaginalquiz.com. That's VAGINAL quiz.com.
Okay.
It's described as a quick quiz based on science that aims to give you a personalized analysis of your vaginal health in like under 2 minutes.
Interesting. So if you're maybe dealing with recurring issues or dryness or just want to be more proactive about intimate health, this could be a starting point.
That seems to be the idea. It's mentioned as being fast, free, and private, just a way to get some initial insights.
And what happens after you take it?
Apparently, you get a custom breakdown, your sort of vaginal health profile, potential imbalances it identifies, and then some expert-backed suggestions tailored to you.
Suggestions like supplements, lifestyle changes.
Could be either or both. Things to help restore natural balance based on your answers, like a little personalized guide.
That could be useful. Kind of like getting some direction without immediately needing an appointment or wading through tons of online info.
Exactly. So if listeners are curious or looking for ways to feel, better, maybe fresher, more in control down there, the suggestion is to check out vaginalquiz.com.
Your body's been talking. It's time to finally listen. That's quite the tagline.
It is. So vaginalquiz.com could be worth a look.
Okay, so just to quickly recap our main points today. We've really dug into that link between oligomenorrhea, those infrequent periods, and how it can ripple out to affect vaginal health through hormonal shifts impacting the microbiome and tissues.
And we talked about the importance of maintaining that vaginal balance for comfort infection prevention, and overall well-being.
And we covered holistic strategies, lifestyle, hygiene, stress management, plus the potential role of targeted support like probiotics, mentioning Balance Complex as an example.
And finally, pointed towards a resource, vaginalquiz.com, for getting some personalized insights into your own intimate health.
A pretty thorough look at the connections.
Definitely. And that brings us to our final thought for you to ponder. Consider this. How might tuning into those more subtle hormonal signals your body sends, like changes in your cycle length, actually empower you to be more proactive about your overall health, not just menstruation or vaginal wellness?
That's a great question. What other seemingly unconnected parts of your health and well-being might actually be intertwined in ways you never considered before? Something to think about.